Yeah, good morning. My name is Chris Buckle, Associate Director here at FHL RSM. Welcome to the NetSuite User Group and the launch of 21.2. Thanks for your attendance. Okay, so I say that's myself. We'll keep off video for the moment, just for expediency. Thank you for attendance. Hopefully you'll find this session to be interesting and beneficial to your own NetSuite instances. We will have times for Q&A towards the end, and also just to let everybody know that this session is being recorded and will be hopefully distributed thereafter to all the attendees. So if we could move on, please. So joining us today will be with Tim Evans, RSM Consultant Director. He's going to go through the process overview and highlights in the new release, and then towards the end of this session we will also introduce and we're joined by James Chisholm, who's Senior Director for International Products at NetSuite, and James will run through a new functionality, new feature involved in NetSuite instances, which is Suite People. So some exciting news across the piece. So as I say, hopefully be beneficial to everybody on the call, and look forward to Q&A at the end and engaging with everybody there. So if we could move on, please. If there are any questions, they will be gathered, and if we can use the chat functionality as highlighted here on this particular screen, that would be great. They'll be collated, and then we can hopefully run through them in the session at the end. Next one, please. Okay, just quickly on this, I know there are clients from both FHL and RSM. For all intents and purposes, we are one organisation. But just to any questions you may have, FHL are wholly owned by RSM. RSM bought them in 2017, but FHL, as you can see, there's been going a good 14 years, and we are quite instrumental in delivering not only new license instances, but also on professional services as well. We also work closely with the RSM team on integrations, implementations, and moving projects forward. So you're in safe hands. There's a good collaboration between the two organisations, and moving forward, you will see that become more and more apparent. So I'm not going to dwell too much on this slide. We really need to get into the crux of the meeting. So if we could move on, please. And with that, I'd like to hand you over to Tim. Tim will now talk you through the 21.2 release and see where we can get to. So Tim, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Chris. Good morning, everybody. Excuse me. My name is Tim Evans. If you've attended these sessions before, you will probably know my name and my voice. And I think I have some clients that I've worked with in the past on the call. So welcome to all of you. What we're going to do today is we're going to step through the 21.2 release. I'll start by talking through the release process overview. It's kind of important that you understand that as an administrator. If you've heard this before, if you've attended one of these before, you will know that I do this every release, but it is important, and there are new people that have not sat through this before. So as an administrator, you should understand what the release process is and how it changes your account, and I'll go through that. I'll then go through the 21.2 change highlights. I focus on the highlights that affect accounting mostly. There are some administrative changes that I go through as well. I don't go too deeply into any of the technical changes, but there are some exciting changes. It's actually a good release. It's a bit more exciting than the last release, which was pretty light on new accounting functionality. I'll then finish with a call to action. So explain to you what you're having been through, what you're going to get in the new release, what your next steps should be. So let's start by talking about the NetSuite release process. There are two major releases that NetSuite do every year in Q1 and Q3. This applies to core NetSuite only, so I'm only talking about the main NetSuite account. Suite apps and bundles can be updated obviously at any time, but the core NetSuite goes through two major release cycles per year. The upgrades are rolled out to customers in 4 phases. As part of the release cycle, you do get a release preview account that is made available to all customers, and I'll talk about that. NetSuite also make available to you release information. in the new release portlet. So you get plenty of advance warning about what's coming and what you need to do. And it's made available to you. NetSuite also provide new feature training in SUITEANSWERS, and I'm sure you all know where SUITEANSWERS is. The free training is published from phase 1. Okay, so the 4 phases. Pre-phase 0 is when NetSuite takes a snapshot of all production accounts. So a bit of a technical detail there, where they start the release process. Phase 1 is where they start rolling out to internal NetSuite accounts. Customers really start getting it at phase 2. So at phase 2, about 10% of all customer accounts are upgraded. Phase 3 is when 30% or around 30% are done. And finally, at phase 4, the remaining 60% of customer accounts are upgraded. NetSuite schedules the phases to avoid month end, so they're usually around the middle of the month, and they're typically on a Thursday night as well. Release preview accounts are made available adjacent to each upgrade phase. So you can see there in the gray bars when they're made available to you. So if you're in phase 4, which the majority of customers are, you get 6 weeks access to a release preview. You get about 5 weeks access if you're in phase 3. Okay, so your exact dates of release preview will be relayed to you in the release portlet. So if you log into NetSuite, as the release comes up, the new release portlet will appear, and it will tell you in there when your release is going to be. NetSuite also sends out campaign emails. They're sent to the primary contact for your account with NetSuite. So you'll receive update notification emails. It's best practice as the administrator of a NetSuite account to know your upgrade date. Stick it in your diary. Make sure you know when your account's going to be changing. Premium tier customers may request a change to their date. So if you have a premium tier, by that I mean a dedicated server, and you're not on a shared instance of NetSuite, you are able to request change or movement to a different release date if you want. So in other words, you can move to a different phase if you need to. Just be aware that if you don't see this new release, you may obviously need to personalize your dashboard in order to see it, but it should get pushed to you once it's published or once it's known. Okay. Key thing here is to remember your upgrade date. Keep a track of it. I suggest you stick it in your diary once you know about it. Does NetSuite ever change the release date? Typically no, but it's not completely unknown. NetSuite does endeavor to stick to the published release schedule, and obviously to minimize disruption to customers. However, QA wins every time, so quality assurance wins every time. In the past, some release phases have been delayed because QA targets for the release haven't been met. 2017.1 is one I remember particularly that was moved because QA targets were so off. So best practice, keep an eye on the date and the campaign emails that get sent, and keep track of your upgrade date. And like I said, mark your diary with it. What is release preview? Release preview it's a play account basically. So it's a play account you can use to test your account in the new 2021.2 release. So you get access to this, as I said, about 5 or 6 weeks before your upgrade. All your configurations and customizations deployed at the snapshot date, so in other words, when they take a snapshot of all of the production accounts, will be available in your preview account. It is available to you until your production account is upgraded. All your logins are preserved, so anyone who has a login to your production account will get a login to the release preview. However, some functionality is limited, so be aware of that. Things like outlier things like eBay integration, things like that, are limited in what they can do. Do you get a release preview? Well, the good news is if you use the release preview in 2021.1 and conducted over 100 more posts, so you actually did something, you actually did use it, you'll automatically receive a 2021.2 account. Bad news, if you forgot to do any testing in the previous release, you'll need to go to set up company release preview, and you'll see this screen here, and you can see there's a release preview button there. So you can see the account that says opt-in required. Click that button and it'll be made available to you overnight. Is it fully functional? Generally, yes, as I said, but some functionality is limited. I think things like PayPal integration, Outlook integration isn't available. So, but you know, all the key thing is all your integrations and all of your customizations will work. So you should be using it to test those. And those should be, as I said, they should be the focus of what you're testing. So it's as an administrator, you must make sure that the new release, your objective is to make sure that the new release isn't going to break your account. So what that means is testing your customizations, testing your workflows, testing your customized reports, testing your any scripts that you've got. I'll talk a little bit more about this later. NetSuite does provide you with some test plans, which I'll talk to you about as well in a little while. Okay, what happens to your SANDBOX during upgrade? Standard SANDBOX accounts are upgraded after the production accounts. So if you've got an active SANDBOX account, that will get upgraded after your production is complete. However, if you've got a premium SANDBOX account, you can request it get upgraded before your production account. That can be done anytime after phase 1. So best practice is if you are a large customer and you have a premium account, best practice is to actually request an upgrade of your SANDBOX or your premium SANDBOX and do your testing in there. The release preview environment is very handy, it's very good, but it's not on great hardware. It's not going to be as performant as a premium SANDBOX is going to be. So if you're an account that deals with a large number, a high volume of data, you're probably going to be better off doing those testings in a SANDBOX. So the recommendation is that you do upgrade your premium SANDBOX or request an upgrade of your premium SANDBOX. Just be aware that if you do upgrade your premium SANDBOX, it can't be refreshed until your production account is upgraded. Obviously, if your SANDBOX is ahead of your production account, refreshing can't occur until the production account catches up. Okay. What happens to your account during the upgrade? Each phase is executed in a group of databases. It's based on region to avoid downtime in peak business hours. Databases are assigned regional upgrade windows at each phase. Typically, it starts in here around 10 o'clock at night. So around 10 o'clock at night, your production account will go down on the day of the upgrade as it goes through that process. Your specific upgrade day and time will be displayed in the new release portlet. So if you're not sure, again, keep an eye on that new release portlet and that will tell you. It does give you a 4-hour window. It typically doesn't take that long. It typically only takes less than 2 hours. Obviously, it depends on the size of the database that you're sitting on. During the maintenance window, your account and all data is completely offline. So you can't log in, you can't use any online forms, your website, your web stores, your web services, they're all offline for that period. But as I said, it does it. They aim to do it in the basically late at night when no one's logging in anyway. When activity in the account is at its lowest. Okay. Okay. The new release portlet is your information center for each new release. Like I said, it provides the date time information for your release preview and your scheduled upgrade. It directs you to more information using the online resources. If you do hide this portlet, you can obviously customize your dashboard to bring it up again. So the resources that it makes available to you, obviously release overview, which is just basically a little video vignette of what's coming in the new release. There's a login to your release preview available there, which directs you to a link to the release preview account. There's the release notes, very important, gives you the information about what's coming in the release. A sneak peek, which is basically the same thing, but a summarized version of it. Release preview guide. This is a high-level strategy for testing. So if you want to go through and you should be using this to use or as the basis for your testing. So it guides you through creating test plans to test your processes in the new release. So some very, very, very useful information on there. And lastly, the training resources are links to the training videos that are available in SUITEANSWERS. So in SUITEANSWERS, if you go into SUITEANSWERS, if you click on videos, you can look at 2021.2, the movies, and they're all available in there. Again, recommended. They're not long, but if you want to get the highlights of what the new functionality is, it's a good way to get introduced to it. Good. So release upgrade messages, you will get emails if you're the administrator. Don't ignore them. So you'll get your general release announcement sent about 2 weeks in advance of phase 1. You'll get a release preview announcement sent the day the release preview is available to you. You also get it as an in-account message. An in-account message is one of those yellow things you see at the top when you first log into NetSuite. So you'll see those. And then you'll get a release upgrade notice sent about 1 week before your upgrade. Again, you'll also get an account notification if you're the administrator for those. So key thing, don't ignore those messages. Mark the dates in your diary. Some upgrade rules to be aware of. Standard sandbox upgrades cannot be delayed after a production upgrade. So if you are currently in development and you're doing something and your release is your upgrade is coming, you may need to consider that. So if you've got a standard sandbox, it's going to get upgraded after the production account. That may impact your development effort. So you may need to do some planning around that. An upgraded premium sandbox cannot be refreshed once the production is upgraded. So if you have a premium sandbox and you've requested an early upgrade of it, as we discussed earlier, you can't refresh it until the production is upgraded. The release preview is never refreshed. So the data that's in the release preview is going to stay as it was. So if you've added new features or new data to your production account, that's not going to be reflected in release preview. Okay. Lastly, there is no rollback. You can't go back. Once you've upgraded, that's it. Okay, so to summarize the release process, know your upgrade date, stick it in your diary. Very, very important. Know your release preview dates, so you know when you can log in and start testing. Consider the impact of upgrade in your development schedule. If you're currently in development and you're using sandboxes, consider what impact the upgrade is going to have and plan accordingly. Consider the upgrade of impact in your environments. Okay, so again, thinking about your different sandboxes and how you're using them, consider how that's going to impact them. Do utilize the new release portlet for resources related to the new release, and obviously utilize the excellent SUITEANSWERS for training. Really good for rolling out to new users as well. Okay. Okay. Let's get on to some of the changes that have come out in NetSuite. I'm going to start with some administrative changes. The first one is the new sandbox refresh options. So we have the option now for you to, if you're on a premium account, you now have the option to specify from where your upgrades are going to come. So from where your refreshing is going to come. So you have the ability now to specify that you can refresh your sandbox from another sandbox, as well as the production account, which is actually quite nice if you're currently in implementation and you're doing development work. You can refresh from sandbox to sandbox, not just from production. It's something that they've requested for a long time, so really good that it's now available. Just a minute. Okay, some other key administration. Support for new customer schedule maintenances has come along. So additional things can now be maintained and scheduled by yourself. So keep an eye on that. This is related to the changes that NetSuite have been making to their database infrastructure. So as they've rolled out onto the new Oracle databases, they're able to do more and be less restrictive. So there's some additional things that you can now schedule. So do keep an eye on that, and then obviously change them if you need them changes. Core administration permissions feature is now enabled by default. So this is a new feature because they've taken away the full access user. There's now this new core administration permission. It used to have to be enabled. It's now available by default. So minor change, but quite a good one. Okay, so first thing, one of the nice things that's coming now, this is something that's been requested for a while. We have a new currency exchange rate provider coming, HSBC. well-known global bank. They will be available as a new currency provider for your integrated exchange rate, your daily integrated exchange rate updates. With the coming of HSB, the previous provider that was Thomson Reuters, that's now called Refinitiv, they're going to be withdrawn. So new accounts can't select them anymore. If you're currently using Thomson Reuters or Refinitiv, you will get migrated on, I think it's on the 31st of October. So have a look at that, keep an eye out for that. And if you wish to move to HSBC, obviously you can do that in your accounting preferences. So recommended that you do that. Okay. Okay, a new feature now coming is allow non-GL changes in a closed period by default. So it's a new preference that you can set in your accounting preferences. So if this is checked, it means that the flag on each period is set automatically. So previously, without this default, you would have to have gone into a period by period to set this flag. What does this allow you to do? It basically enables you to make changes to transactions if the period is closed, if the change doesn't materially impact or doesn't have any general ledger impact. So for example, if a customer phones up and says, you've got my VAT number incorrect on my invoice, could you please resend it? Fix it and resend it. And it's an invoice that's 3 months old. If you didn't have this switched on, you wouldn't be able to edit that transaction. Obviously, with it switched on, you could go and update the address or update the VAT number, whatever it was, save it, it doesn't impact the GL, and then send it off to the customer. So now it's available to be switched on as a preference, saving you from having to do it on a period by period basis. Quite nice. Other key accounting changes, we have advanced numbering duplicate detection for imported transactions. So if you're importing transactions from another system, we have they've introduced advanced features for duplicate detection, which is quite nice. So it saves you from importing transactions twice. And there's an enhancement to accounting book visibility by role. So what this enables you to do is on a role, you're able to specify which accounting book they're going to be available to them. Again, which is a very nice feature. Okay, let's go on to banking changes. Okay, what we have now is a new automated cash application. So this is new functionality to create and apply customer payments from imported bank statements. So the way this works is if you're sending out invoices to your customer and they have a payment link, or they have you have your banking information where customers can pay by direct debit or do a bank transfer, they pay you from their bank through their internet banking portal, or however they do it, they include your invoice number. That then comes in ultimately on your banking statement as a payment from the customer, as a credit into your account. So you import the transactions. How do you match them to a customer payment in NetSuite? Well, previously you would have to have recorded the payment manually. Now we have the ability to import the statement from the bank, and then NetSuite will then go off and generate the customer payments and then obviously automatically match them to the bank transactions for reconciliation. I'm actually going to demo this for you now. So let me share my screen. Okay, so I'm going to start by showing you my account in here. This is a training account. You can see here that looking at my accounts receivable, you see I've got some healthy balances on some customers. I've got customers, they owe me money, basically. Fantastic. I also have prepared a statement that I'm going to import. I'm only going to import 10 because time is precious, or 7 or whatever it is. But this is a file that I've downloaded from the bank. So I formatted it and it's ready for import into NetSuite as a bank statement. So it's a CSV. Obviously, it doesn't have to be a CSV. I could use any of the file formats that NetSuite supports, or even better, I might get the statement in through Bank Connectivity Suite app. In other words, it downloads the statement for me automatically and imports it. But it's a demo, it's a play account. I'm going to use CSV. Okay, so I'm going to start by importing it. Bank in history, and I'm going to upload a file. Okay. So this is my payment statement here. So I'm going to drag it. Okay. So I'm not going to select a financial institution. I'm going to use the default parser. So I'll choose the account to which I'm importing it. And it's this one here, Lloyd's Cash Bank. And then I'm going to run the import. Okay. So let's look at the status. And you can see it's imported, it's worked correctly. Fantastic. So now let's go to the match bank data. So I've now imported the statement. So I should now have 7 or whatever it was transactions that it's imported, customer payments, into my bank. So if I go into the bank and I look at the match bank data and I choose the account, okay, you'll see they're all in here. They're to be matched. So in other words, I've imported them, but there's no payments to match them against. So I've got them in the system, but there's nothing against them. So they're all there ready to be matched. Okay. So the next step is to create the customer payment transactions. And this is the new functionality. So we go into transactions bank and you can see I've got automated cash application. So I'll go into here. I'll start by choosing the account. So the account I just imported for, boom, there they are. There's one here that I'm going to skip, but they're all the ones that I've just imported. Okay. I can use customer mapping rules if I want. So actually, before I do that, I'm going to expand on one of these. And you can see here, it's already worked out what it's going to create for me or what it's going to match to. So it's worked out that it needs to match that imported transaction or that imported bank transaction to this invoice. And it's going to create a customer payment for me. Now, it's obviously done that because my IDs that I've used are nice and neat and are the same. The customer name is the same, the amount is the same. So obviously in an imperfect world, in a perfect world, that would work every time. But we live in an imperfect world. Names change, customers get the reference wrong. There are rules that you can create for it to try or use to match the transactions as they're coming in. So we do have the ability to create custom rules if we want to. Okay, I haven't created them because, like I said, this is a demo and we've got limited time. But in practice, you're probably going to have to create some rules to make this work. You can down here, as you've got the matching, I can change the applied amount if I want to. I can also delete the match. So if it's not a proper match and I want to override it, I do have that option as well. I can also drill down to the actual invoices if I'm not sure from here. So it's quite nice what it allows me to do. I'm going to leave that and I'm going to submit it. Okay, you can see it's got 9 to be generated, 1 has been excluded, and I'll click OK. So what it's doing now is it is generating those customer payments for me. So 2 down, 7 to go. So we'll just let that work while it's doing its thing. How's this going? Oh, almost there. You can see it's created the customer payments for me. Okay, how are we doing? Okay, that's all done. So they were now created. So let's just recap what I've done here. I've downloaded a statement from the bank. It's found a bunch of customer payments that haven't been recorded in NetSuite. I've downloaded the customer statement. I've imported it. It's identified there's a bunch of customer payments that weren't recorded in NetSuite. I've now used this new functionality to then generate those payments. So it's matched them to the invoices and it's now generated the payments. So if I drill down to the payment that it's created, you'll see that it's automatically applied to the invoice that it found. Eventually. Okay, if I look at the departure, you can see there it is there. So it has actually found that invoice and it's applied it. So the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my reconcile account statement. So I don't need to match it because that's already done. It did that for me automatically. But if I go into the reconcile account statement and I choose my account, you'll see there they all are. They're already matched. So all I need to do now is put in my ending statement balance, which would be £168,000 with all the payments that I brought in, and then I would save it. Done. And obviously that would be the 7th of the 6th that I did it. And it's now reconciled. Okay, as simple as that. Brilliant. Okay. Okay, other key banking changes. The CSV parser plugin is now available as banking statement parsers, and you just saw me use that, which is quite nice. Okay. All right. Let's get on to vendors and purchasing. Okay. All right, so centralized purchasing improvements. So centralized purchasing was introduced in 2021.1. In 2021.2, it now supports consolidation of requisitions across subsidiaries into one purchase order. So if you've got requisitions coming from employees that are across the organization in different subsidiaries, they can now be imported into one purchase order, which is quite nice. So it tidies that up a bit. Okay. Order management. So changes here. The new thing we have here is the e-documentation certification service. So it's a new suite app that allows you to send e-documents to tax authorities and manage their responses. If you have operations in South America, this will be a key thing for you. It's something that comes up particularly in Brazil and other South American countries. So quite nice. Okay, Delta charges, what is it? It's a new global invoicing accounting preference that is now available that gives you improved flexibility when billing changes to invoice service periods. So previously, if you needed to do this, it would do a credit and recharge. So this simplifies it because it enables you, if you're using subscription manager, it allows you to make changes to invoice service periods when a customer, makes you do. Let me start again. If you're using subscription management, if you need to make changes to what this customer subscribed to, you can now do it through a Delta charge rather than having to credit and do a whole recharge. So it does make it a lot simpler, not only for you for your operations, but also for the customer for them to understand what you're doing with them. So if you have an uptick or a downtick in a charge to a customer, you can use Delta charges to manage that. Okay, other key changes we have in order management. Subscription billing bulk change orders. Again, it's another one for subscription management users. It's a new ability to process subscription change orders in bulk. Previously, it had to be done one by one. Now you can do it in bulk. And pack station enhancements. If you're using warehouse distribution or manufacturing, it's a new suite app that's been further improved and allows pallets to be reused in another packing session. It also gives you a new ability to generate GS1 linear barcodes for serial shipping container codes. So if you're in warehousing and you're using a lot of and you're using PackStation, some enhancements there to look out for. Okay, reporting analytics changes. Not a lot here for anyone that's not using SUITEANALYTICS workbooks, but if you are using workbooks, the first one is cache data in datasets. In previous releases, data in datasets was loaded in real time whenever you accessed a tool set. With cache data, you can use cache response mode to load cache data into your datasets. It basically makes it more performing. So rather than you sitting there and it churning along, if you're caching it, it will work a lot faster for you. Dataset linking in SUITEANALYTICS workbook. Again, I don't want to get into technical details, and I haven't actually seen this yet, but linked datasets that allow you to analyze metrics from two datasets in a single visualization based on the link that you've defined using common field data from each dataset. Unlike joining record types, you can link datasets even if they are based on record types that don't have predefined common keys in the analytics data source. So I haven't seen that, I haven't played with that, but it sounds really interesting. So it allows you to link separate data books and then report upon it. And the CSV export option is now available in pivot tables. In workbooks, you can now export your pivot tables as CSV files. Prior to 21.2, you could only export the table views and charts as CSV files. Now you can do a pivot, which is quite nice. Okay, taxes. Let's talk about taxes. Biggest one is probably the change from the one-stop shop. So we've now got what was MOSS is now OSS. This is a change in legacy tax. MOS was extended and renamed OS, and that because it now covers a wider range. It's no longer the mini. They've dropped the mini basically, so it's now the one-stop shop, not the mini one-stop shop. It now covers a wider range of suppliers. NetSuite now supports the additional VAT codes that are required to support this. So if you're trading in the EU and you're subjected to one-stop shop rules, this will be of import to you. Other key changes in legacy tax, if you trade in Ireland, they've got this new postponed accounting. They've had it for a while, but there's increased support for that. So additional VAT codes have been defined to support that. There's adjustments for various reports in Chile, Denmark, Finland. So in other words, just keeping NetSuite up to date with changes in various locales. We've made changes to comply with making tax digital, not month to date, with UK making tax digital fraud protection compliance. So again, keeping your NetSuite account up to date and compliant with rules. Updates to UK Intrastat Arrivals Report, again, to reflect changes that are required there. The tax audit file suite app now supports period end journal entries in the French FEC report. So if you're using tax audit files and you're generating the FEC report, that could be important to you. And if you have operations in Australia and New Zealand or Norway, again, localization enhancements, again, all designed to keep your account compliant with local rules. If you're on SUITETAX, key changes, obviously a change to the mini one-stop shop to the same changes, but reflecting in SUITETAX. We have new support for India in the localization bundle, and SQL support, or SUITESQL now supports country tax reports page enhancement. So localization country tax report suite apps, in other words, ones developed by us or by other partners, can now use SUITEGL for retrieving tax information. So it's a bit of a technical change, but it means that extracting data or having partners to extract data is now a little bit easier. Okay, let's talk about projects. So the big one here is purchase to project. So it's a new suite app that you can install that allows you to create and manage project purchases against a project or down at a task level. Previously, this is something that's come up a lot. I mean, I've been in NetSuite, working in the NetSuite ecosphere for a long time. This has been something that's been requested for a long time. Previously, to do it, you had to customize it. Now it's available native in the application. So it increases visibility of purchase orders and purchase invoices against a project. So from a project, you can raise a purchase order, you can raise a bill. And even more importantly, looking at the next one, we now have project-based approvals in conjunction with this. So what this does, project managers, or when you put in a purchase transaction, it can route automatically to the project manager on the project record. So Again, it gets something that's been requested a long time. You could achieve it through customization. Now it's available in the native app, which is very good. So I'm actually going to demo this. So let me go into my screen again. Okay. So I'm going to start by showing you the Suite app. So if you want to install the projects, if you go into Suite apps and you search for projects, there it is there, purchase to project. And you can see I've actually already installed it in this account, which is fantastic. So I'm going to start by going to a project. Okay. So I'm looking at a project record, office refurbishment or design effort for Granger Wines. You'll start by seeing that I have a project manager assigned to the project. Ahmed Abuzid is assigned as the project manager. I'm also going to show you a vendor that I've set up for use with this. So let me show you the vendor record. Okay, so this is a vendor that I have set up to use. The most important thing you need to do with a vendor if you want to use this is you have to mark them as a project vendor. So in the classification, that must be marked if you want to be able to choose this vendor in purchase transactions that are going to be linked to a project. So just make sure that's marked. That is different to the vendor being a resource. Okay, we have the ability in NetSuite to assign vendors as a resource. This is an additional thing that you need to mark. They can, of course, be both. But of course, they don't need to be both. So if you want to associate this vendor with purchasing for projects, you need to mark that field. Okay. So the next thing I need to do is show you the approval rule list. So if I go to Setup, Approval Process Manager, Approval Rule List, you'll see I've created 2 rules for purchase orders and bills already. So I'm sending the bill and I'm sending the purchase order to the PM. If I view the PO rule, you'll see it's being routed to the project manager. When it eventually comes up, okay, so it's purchase order, it's running. You can see I'm routing it to the project manager down there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you how that works and the key thing that's changed here. So this is actually in Suite Approvals app. The big thing that's down here is when I click on the approval type, previously we had employee, specific, approver, group, da. The new thing is that the project manager is now available, which is very nice. So I can add it, route it to the project manager based on this rule. Now, obviously with these rules, I've only got a simple one. I'm putting in a purchase order, I'm sending it to the PM, that's it. I can obviously have as many rules as I require. So if I need to have nested approval, or if I need to send it to somewhere else before it goes to the PM, or if I needed to send it to someone else after the PM has approved it, if it's over a certain value, or whatever I need to do, I can obviously still do all that. That's fine. I just need to add additional rules that it would work through as it needed to be. In this case, it's very simple. I'm just sending it straight to the PM. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my project. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to create a PO. So the first thing I'll do is you'll see that there is now a procurement tab on the project record. And if I click down on there, you can see I can see my purchase orders that I've created. Okay, I'm going to create a purchase order. Okay, actually I won't do that because it'll take too long. I'll just view 87. If I view 87, I look at that purchase order that I created before. You'll see it's pending approval. and you can see it's automatically been routed to Ahmed. Okay, so it's sitting there waiting his approval. So this can be done via Ahmed logging into the system. It could be done by email. However you're processing your approvals, it will obey that, or it will follow that. It will follow that path. Okay. So let me go back to the project. Okay, and I will quickly create a purchase order. Sorry, the project I want. That is not the project. And I will quickly create a purchase order. So from procurement, create purchase order. You can see I've got to start by choosing the purchase orders for projects. And it starts by giving me a project vendor. So I need to choose one of those vendors where I've marked them as a project vendor. Okay, and there's British Office Fit Out, so I'll choose those. Okay, I'm getting a warning about the nexus changing. That's fine. Put a memo in. That's fine. It's automatically linked to the project for me. It's marked at billable. Brilliant. It's done that because I created it from the project record. Very nice. Okay. And now I'm going to save it. Okay, so when I save it, you can see the awaiting approval. Eventually. Okay, you can see it's awaiting approval rule assignment. So it's sitting there waiting, well, the workflow is waiting to kick off, or it's going through the workflow. I am in a demo account, so it is going to be slow. I do apologize for that. Eventually when I refresh, as it thinks about the life choices that it has made, it will eventually route, and the next approver, still waiting, chunk, ka-chunk, ka-chunk. Okay, you can see it's now worked. The next approver, you can see it's routed to Ahmed. So it's worked. It's sent it off to Ahmed for approval. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to log in as Ahmed and go into my project consultant role. So I'm now in as Ahmed. I'm going to go to time and expenses, purchasing, and go to the list of purchase orders. Okay, and I can see here the two things that I've just put in there are sitting there. So I can view it. And of course, I can approve it eventually. Okay, there it is there. Ahmed's approved it. The purchasing continues. The nice thing about this, obviously, is it keeps a nice audit trail of everything that I've done. You can see there's an approval history. Eventually, as it finishes this, did I mention that the demo accounts are slow? Okay. Okay, so under here I can see Larry created it. This was pending approval. It was routed to Ahmed. Ahmed approved it. Everyone's happy. Okay. Brilliant. Okay. Like I said, that's been something that people have requested for a long time. I know personally, in my own experience with clients, I've had to develop this I don't know how many times. Now it's available as standard functionality, and it's very, very nice. So I'm a big fan. Okay. Some other changes for project management. Subscription bulk billing change orders, another one for subscription users. You can process change orders in bulk. You know, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing here. Sorry, ignore that. Okay, so the slide there that I left that I've already discussed. Okay, what I want to talk about now is your call to action. So we've been through the new release. You've seen some of the key new features. What do you as administrators or as NetSuite account users need to do now? So the first thing or the objective that you need to do in any new release is you need to test it to make sure that the new release does not break your critical processes in your businesses. So what you should do with every release, you should test basically. You should identify any new functionality that's being released in the new account or in the new release that may be of use to you. And you need to think about how you're going to migrate to that. How are you going to adopt this new functionality? What change will it mean to your account, to what processes that you do to start using that new functionality? So for example, if you were using projects and you wanted to move to that new project purchasing process, how would you migrate to that? How would you migrate from whatever custom process you're using to the new process? You will then obviously develop a migration plan for those processes. Testing the new release, download the release preview test plan template and create a test plan for each of your business workflows. The Excel, it's basically an Excel worksheet, and it includes a testing matrix. It includes workflow matrices, and it gives you examples of how you should be building it out. It's going to be specific to your business, and it's going to be specific to the workflows within your business. So there is a bit of work setting it up, but the aim is to make it match the process flows or map out the process flows that you do. The best practice is to work with the process owners within your business, make them responsible for their area of NetSuite. And of course, once you've got the test plans, they're obviously reusable for each new release. So you only obviously need to go through this test plan once. You may need to tweak it if your business changes, but you don't have to start from scratch every new release. Just don't confuse a business workflow with a workflow in NetSuite. The idea is that you're testing your end-to-end processes in the release preview. I don't just mean testing a workflow that you have in your NetSuite account. So I mean going from when a customer first contacts you to when they make a payment. What processes do you go through to process an order, to fulfill it, to issue an invoice, to receive the payment? Make sure all those processes are tested. Testing the new release. The following should be tested. You should obviously test your business workflows, as I've just discussed. Test your custom reports and forms. So if you have custom reports that you've built, make sure they're still giving you the information that you require. Make sure your forms are still working. So if you have custom forms in the UI, so I'm talking about your data entry forms that you're using. If you've created custom ones, make sure they're still working. Test any other customizations that you have. Your suite scripts. Your custom records, make sure they're still working. If you've got integrations with other systems, SOAP or RESTlet, make sure they're working. If you've got suite apps that you've installed, either from NetSuite or from other providers, again, make sure they're working. If you've got a web store or if you're using SUITEANALYTICS Connect, test, test, test. Cannot overemphasize this. Identify any functionality that is of interest. So NetSuite is constantly changing with new functionality being introduced and old functionality being deprecated. I mean, the one we're talking about, this one was the change in the rate provider. So how are you going to migrate to that? When are you going to migrate to that? Best practice is to review the release notes and release training early in the release cycle so that you're identifying any new functionality. Okay. And with that, I'm now going to hand over. It's enough of me. I'm going to hand over to James so he can talk you through Suite People.
Thanks, Tim. Just thank you to Chris and FHL, the RSM team, for inviting me along today. For any of those of you who've been on these sessions previously, I normally talk a little bit about kind of the future and some of the direction. And, you know, in subsequent events, I'd just like to, add that we have got some significant updates coming, which I'm pretty excited about, some things that we've been working on for some time. So, keep your eyes peeled for some of those updates, because I'm sure that will be interesting to many of you. So I did want to just spend some time this morning talking about Suite People, our new HR and performance management capabilities. So next slide, please, Tim. Our usual safe harbor statement. We won't worry too much about that. Let's skip on, Tim, to the next. So what is Sweet People HR? So if I cast my mind back actually now to 2017, which seems like an awfully long time ago in Las Vegas at our Suite World event, NetSuite announced the availability of Sweet People. One of the things that we didn't do, strangely, is let our customers know that initially it would be a US only release. We'd spent many years putting this together. It was a part of the suite that was missing, that was clearly not there. So we wanted to rectify that. So we made an announcement. And then what happened is we worked with our US customers, and we subsequently went on to deliver more feature functionality. What we didn't do was overtly make a statement about availability for Sweet People everywhere else. And so that's kind of what I'm going to do here today. So next slide, please, Tim. So this slide's going to build. Don't press next just yet, Tim. But really what we're going to do today, just for a few minutes, is explain what's included in our HR offering Sweet People. So essentially what we're going to do is offer HR admin to manage a global workforce. You'll be able to define organizational structures and record data to help with compliance reporting for your workforce. Within that, we'll include workforce management solutions, help you to manage time and absences, compensation, benefits, and looking at the wider impact across the suite using NSPB, NetSuite Planning and Budgeting, as an example, to give you the ability to plan and budget for future workforce needs. The other thing that we've done is recognized how much the area of employee engagement is gaining exposure. Particularly in these days, we've got people working in different locations, globally dispersed, working from home. So the engagement piece is really important. So not just some of the core HR functionality. So we offer a recognition solution within Sweet People, something that we call Kudos, where we can call out staff for doing good things. Going to have full employee self-service, manager self-service, to help you reduce costs and improve your HR service delivery. Within the offering itself, we offer over 100 standard reports, role-based dashboards, 15 leading practice KPIs, insights on compensation, and a number of other things. But at its heart, as this slide says, is HR administration. The basics of what you'd be able to want to do. We find that many of our customers today, manage HR off system, in spreadsheets or other applications. But obviously, what we want you to be able to do is manage your global employee records within NetSuite itself, maintain an organization structure and directory, and obviously achieve those HR compliance updates. So you can hit next now, Tim. So employee record management. So really this is, again, the kind of heart of the stuff that we do with Sweet People. And obviously, at the moment, particularly more than ever, change is the only constant. So, organizations are in a perpetual state of employees coming and leaving, making changes. So Sweet People will help you capture these in an efficient way. And importantly, in that almost near real time way, which is hugely important across NetSuite. So, across the suite here, we can maintain base salary, variable pay, personal information, relating to your employees, job catalogs. Importantly, everything that we do, can be effective dated. So you know, if you want to make a salary change on a given day, we can do that. And obviously everything's managed with a full audit trail within NetSuite. So that's really important. And then obviously, you know, moving on, we can do things like government IDs, you know, things like national insurance number and various other pieces, benefits tracking. We optionally can include health and safety capabilities, so, you know, accident reporting in the workplace, etc. So all included in that employee record management capability. The other nice thing, again, you know, bearing in mind that this is all embedded in core NetSuite, is, you know, if you have a termination or somebody decides to leave the organization, you know, NetSuite can, you know, help plan and deliver that exit interview process. And of course, you know, depending on what that person does in the organization, because it's in core NetSuite, we can automatically restrict access to the system for you, etc., to make that whole process much more easy and secure. So next one, please, Tim. And so this is just a screen grab of what the org browser will look like, and obviously we can, you know, do some neat things there in terms of how we drill into employees. We could look at, you know, relationships across the org, make updates, export that if we need to, and obviously as soon as a change is made and approved, you know, this dynamically updates and changes. Next one, please, Tim. So the next pillar is workforce management, things like time and absence, compensation, benefits tracking, planning. If we click to the next, just give you a couple of examples of some of the things in this area. So obviously, you know, time off is critically important, you know, especially, you know, nowadays it's important to have that. So, you know, NetSuite can accommodate that with Suite people. You can review time off requests. Managers can approve time off requests with a single click. Manage team conflicts. Again, the beauty of this is that because it's fully integrated, you know, if you're a services business, as an example, you know, this is you know, linked into projects. So, you know, if you're managing projects and you have consultants who are perhaps working on projects, as an example, you know, they enter a time off request within Suite people, that's obviously going to link through to their availability within projects, etc. So, you know, the ability to do those types of things are really important. We're not dealing with something outside off system. It's all within core NetSuite itself. Next slide, please. So employee and manager self-service, you know, role-based permissions, something that you're used to within NetSuite notifications and workflows. We can also have custom roles. You know, importantly, an enhanced employee center. The good news is Suite People comes with the employee center at no additional cost, so that will be available to you. You know, the employee center itself is hugely important, and you know, we've mentioned this in previous sessions with Tim. You know, because you can do things like approving vendor bills now within the employee center. So within the employee center license, you know, we can do some other things in NetSuite as well. So, you know, with Suite People, you know, we can, you know, sort of gain access to NetSuite in a different way for other people in the organization who perhaps not just not finance users, etc. So, you know, really key. Obviously, we maintain things like time off balances, etc., which again is really important. Next, please. And workforce engagement. As I say, I mentioned this at the top. It is becoming more important. You know, recognising employees, you know, employees' welfare, etc., which is really important. And moving into things like performance management, also really crucial to us. Next slide, please. So this is just a, you know, this is just a basic screenshot of some of the things that are possible. We actually have something additional that you can implement, which again is free of charge, which is a company news feed. So you can, based on role or whatever within the organization, we can start, you know, providing some company information, you know, through NetSuite. and providing that to employees. So again, you might be doing that in another system today or whatever, but we can now build that into the core of NetSuite and start passing, information to a wider group of people. And obviously this is fully customizable. Next slide, please. Employee hire process and offboarding, a couple of points just to note here. So we can start doing things like job requisitions. That requisition will serve as your single source of the truth for all the requisitions that you have, and requisition statuses, hiring manager, recruiter, etc. One of the things that SuitePeople doesn't have is an over application tracking system. Albeit, we do have pre-built integrations to things like Oracle Taleo, for instance, which is an applicant tracking system. So we can do that. But obviously, once an offer is accepted and an employee record needs to be created, we also manage an onboarding process. So NetSuite will handle that for you. There will be an onboarding checklist. We can maintain different types of templates to do that. And then the subsequent HR administration tasks that are needed alongside that, as well as task assignment. And again, because this is NetSuite, you'll get full status and reminders of everything that's happening in that process. Next slide, please. And finally, analytics. What's really important is the point at which we can now provide people analytics. That's really important. And again, that will be embedded within NetSuite via the dashboards. We will deliver standard KPIs and insights. And as I said, there's a number of standard and ad hoc reports that are available. So really, starting to be able to really look at how you manage your employees and report on them in the context of the wider business. Next slide, please. So this is just a kind of, again, just a look of an HR role in terms of the dashboard and some of the things that they would see, in terms of the KPIs, etc. The reminders, open job requisitions, that type of thing. So again, out of the box, this will be delivered to our customers. Next one, please. And importantly for us, if we think about NetSuite and the suite, the true value of the suite, as many of you will know, we offer many different things. At the heart of it, really, kind of financials, but there's also a plethora of other things that we do, from projects and other elements of the suite. But really, this slide, anyone of a certain age who may remember, looks a bit like Blockbusters. But the important thing here is that it is this the unified suite element. With the design that we've got, we can share people information all around the suite in areas like procurement, projects, planning, budgeting, financials, and analytics. Ultimately, it will reduce the need to reconcile or rekey data. It's going to streamline processes, and it's going to be a more engaging experience for all the employees in one place. You're going to get greater accuracy in your financials. It will enable those new people analytics, which you've not been able to do previously. It will show how people perform and how that affects business performance and standard sets of KPIs. And it will enable all of our customers and companies of all sizes to perform workforce planning again, which is something that we haven't been able to do previously, and will make you more resilient as business climates and economies change, and the turbulent couple of years that we've had. So it is a really important piece of the suite that we're now introducing. Next slide, please. The other thing that we're delivering is Suite People Performance Management. So in actual fact, strangely, when we launched in 2017 in the US, we didn't have performance management, but we are releasing performance management alongside the core HR capabilities. So just a quick couple of things about this. So next slide, please. So Suite People Performance Management will be directly connected to your work. And again, I can't stress the importance of, you'll have your employees within NetSuite. You'll be able to link into what they do in their roles. So it's directly connected into their work, and you'll be able to manage their performance accordingly. You'll get real-time updates on goal actuals from within the suite for greater efficiency. Will increase engagement and drive better outcomes, hopefully. And it will accurately reflect, employee contributions and past performance. And you'll be able to monitor that very closely, again, as being part of the core suite. Next slide. And if we look at that, we're kind of reinventing performance management, or we'd like to think within the context of the NetSuite product. We do like the use of suite, as you will probably know, and we have a new term that we've started to use here is sweetness. And really, what that means is it's achieving kind of the art of the possible with some of the information that you have within NetSuite today. So your goals can be based on actual things that are happening in the system, whether that's, if somebody's working in warehousing and fulfillment, the number of stock outs that we're having, the percentage of stock that's being shipped late, these can all be rolled into the goals of that warehouse person. We can look at financials and look at, how people are adhering to budget, and headcount, location mix and things. So those things can all be used as the basis of your performance management and your goals. And it's all tightly tied through to the suite. And we're doing that through things that people know well and love, which is through saved searches. So there's a number of things that we can do there. Next slide. So, this is just some screen grabs of what we do in terms of performance management and creation of goals. So we can create them, we monitor, we can reprioritize, we can close them. There's full manager collaboration and approval, and performance metrics, and you can see some of this here. And obviously, again, from some of the drop downs that you can see, we're pulling things directly from the suite to enable us to create and monitor metrics, and obviously be able to report on those goals as well. Next slide. And then obviously there's the review aspect of that. We all do it. We sit down and have regular reviews with our management, etc. So we have a performance review set up. We can create that review. We can integrate the goals that we've already created into that performance review. Obviously work through that, have approvals and acknowledgements, and again, fully reporting on all of that process throughout the cycle of the performance review. Next slide, please. So again, just a little visual of how that works from, working from, the template through scheduling, performance reviews, the actual review itself, how the employee and manager sit down and go through that, HR and manager approval, and finally through to employee approval. So again, we're quite pleased this is now in Suite People. It was an element that certainly our early customers wanted to do. The whole goals aspect of this is really important, and helping you to manage and maintain your workforce. Next one, please. So to kind of wrap, last couple of slides here. We do think that that Suite People is going to be of benefit to our customers. We're pretty excited. I've been pushing hard to bring this to our customers here in the UK for some time. Our unified approach will solve problems mentioned at the beginning by reducing that need to reconcile, providing analytics to you and a single employee experience for better engagement. Better control over HR costs and new found insights by having your employees, within NetSuite itself. So, we do think it's quite a unique proposition. we think it's, you know, consumable for our customers as well. It's not a heavyweight solution. And then onto the final slide for me. A couple of things here. So we're now generally available, and we successfully launched the product here in the UK on July the 7th. We didn't make a huge splash about it. Obviously, it's, you know, there's lots going on, but we have made the product available. So if you're interested, please speak to RSM. You know, please speak to, you know, whoever your account, you know, manager may be. We'd be happy to talk to you about it. We've done a lot of enablement. We've spoken to all of our partners. You know, they're excited with the capability. Just as an example, you know, within the first, you know, week or two, you know, we signed 10 new logos. We're working on many more. A couple of things, and I did update the slides, but it doesn't look as though it's made it here. A couple of things to mention, just in case people were wondering. We will have a UK payroll availability very shortly. We're just working through some QA and some product work just to make sure that that's all working nicely, but payroll will also be a part of our offering very shortly. And if anybody's interested, you know, don't just listen to what I'm saying about how good we think Sweet People is. There is an ERP trade publication called the Enterprise Times, and I think if we send the slides out, there'll be a link there. But there's an interview on there with me and Enterprise Times, and also one of our customers who have implemented Sweet People, where it's really quite, you know, transformed their business. It's a good read. You'll be able to, you know, see the benefits of what Sweet People has brought to them. So I'd thoroughly recommend taking a look at that. And as I say, I'll make sure that that's on the slide that comes out to everybody. But really good news, a really positive announcement. It's a big piece of news really for us in terms of being able to finally deliver this to our customers. So again, you know, if you're interested, you know, please take a look. There's a lot of collateral that's available. And as I say, hopefully, if I get the invite again, we'll talk about some of the things that we've got coming up in the financial space soon, which I think everyone will find quite exciting to hear about. So that's it from me. Thank you very much for taking time out to listen this morning, and I'll hand back to the team. Thank you.
James, thanks very much for that. And yeah, the invite is always open, so we look forward to you joining the next one. So especially if there's good news to send out to the group, like there has been about Sweet People. So looking forward to moving that forwards. We've been monitoring the chat and for questions. Appreciate there's been a lot to take in over the last 90 minutes. So that there's no questions at all at the moment. So quite interesting. However, once you've digested what's been put out on the session and you've got a chance to review the deck once we've circulated it, I'm sure there will be other questions coming out of that. So please either reach out to myself or reach out to Tim. Our contact details will be in the deck, or reach out to your account managers. They'll be more than delighted to field questions, sort out any further demonstrations, and help you move forwards. And obviously, within the FHL arena, those clients have their support options in place with us as well. Kingsley and his team will be more than delighted to help you move forwards with the integration and moving on. So all it leaves me to do is thank you for your attendance. Hope you found it interesting and been useful for you. Let's I say be in touch if there are any questions coming through, you require any further information, and we look forward to you joining us on the next release, and also on any other ventures that we will be doing between us moving forward. We recently had an FHL user group which was very, very well received and attended, and I think moving forward we will do an FHL RSM user group where again we can talk about new features, things that are happening within the business, and new engagements. So please watch out for those as well. But leaves me to thank everybody that joined. James, thank you very much once again for that. Look forward to seeing you again. Tim, thank you for your contribution, and stay safe and have a good day. Thanks very much.